I'm going to show you how to make a pencil topper using a reference image. Okay, this could also be applied to other projects, but um, this is the project that we've been working on, so I've just decided to relate it to that. So what I mean is, if we have a look at what I've got here, I've got an OKC image that I've downloaded off the internet, and I've put that into Fusion 360, and I've used that to create this three-dimensional object that you're looking at here with features that have been extruded or intruded to, like, I guess, to show the detail in the image. Now, when we're 3D printing, we can't print lines, so we can only print shapes. So the only things that show up are the shapes that we extrude, okay? And I'll go into more detail about that as we go. In this video, I am assuming some knowledge of Fusion 360. So if you haven't used Fusion 360 before, this is probably not the best video to start off with. I'd go back and watch my video on creating a key tag, which takes you through some of the basic features of Fusion 360. So go and check that out, come back, and hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. Now, the first thing we need to do this project is we need to find the image that we want. So I've just gone on to Google and searched in Google Images, and I've found the logo that I want to use. Now, it's really important. I've very specifically chosen this logo because it's all straight lines. You can choose different logos like this one or any of these ones, but the process is just a little bit more complicated. You have to use some different tools, which I'll mention as we go through the video. So I've just chosen this one because it's easy. So I've saved that, and then I'll go into Fusion. So I've saved that in my files or in my downloads, wherever you want to save it. Okay, and then I'm just going to create a new design, and I'm going to look at my plane, or I want to look at the top down plane. Okay, so this is always a good place to start when you're creating something in Fusion. Top down, so basically you're looking at the print bed, and then you're going to bring everything up or extrude it from that print bed. So the first thing we need to do is, when I upload an image, I don't know exactly how big it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something that I just call like a reference line, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if I just go up to the top left-hand corner here, and I go to create a sketch. Now, importantly, we are in that top-down view, and we know that from the orientation cube in the top right-hand corner. Okay, now I have to click on this square to tell it that I am drawing on this plane, which is the print bed plane. So if I click on that there, I can now create what I'm going to call a reference line. Now, I want my pencil topper to be 50 millimeters in length. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a line somewhere around the middle that is 50 mil. Now, I can just type in 50 mil and I'll get the measurement that I'm after, or you can just sort of click and drag to get the measurement you're after. If I press enter, I've just got this line here, and this line is just going to help me size my image. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish the sketch. So I've just got that line there, and I'm going to delete that line a little later. Like I said, it's just a reference line. So now I'm going to go over here where it says insert, and I'm going to insert what they call a canvas, which is, for us, it's just an image that we're going to place on that face. So I'm going to click on that option there, that canvas option, and then I'm going to find my image from my computer, and I already sort of had that set up ready to go. That was just in the folder that I created, and I'm going to click on that, and then I need to tell Fusion that I want it on that same plane that I've just drawn that line. So I click on that square there, and now you can see at the moment the image is really small compared to what I want, which is why I've created that reference line. It would be easy just to paste that in and then zoom in and start to work on it, and then later on you go to 3D print it and you work out that it's actually really small. So that's why I've created that reference line. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize that image, and I'm going to resize it in relation to that line that I've created. So that's maybe a little too big compared to my 50 mil line. Now you can like spend a bit of time getting it exact if you want to, or you might just be thinking, hey, that's around about right. I'm pretty happy with that. It's probably a bit over 50 mil in total. I'm just going to drag that into the middle. I always like to start my images like pretty well centered on the print bed. So I've done that. I'm just going to click now, enter, and then I'm going to click on this line. I'm going to just delete that line now. I don't need it anymore. I know that I've got my image is around about that 50 to 60 mil mark. So it's going to be exactly what I'm after. Now, Fusion's really easy to use with a mouse. So if you've got a mouse, I would highly recommend using it. If you're using your trackpad, you can zoom in and out by pinching and zooming in that way. You can also use these tools down here to zoom in and out. You've got that hand tool that gives you the ability to pan, and then you can you can sort of move around the plane like that. Now, if you've got a mouse though, if you click on the middle scrolling wheel, you can pan around. You can use the scrolling wheel to zoom in and out. It is a little bit easier, but you can still use those tools down here to do the same thing. And once you're done, so I just had my panning tool there. Once you're done, you can click escape, and that will take you back to your cursor like what I've got here. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to trace around my image. Now, like I said earlier, I chose this image because it just involves straight lines, which makes things a lot easier. But you can use the fit point spline tool to create curved lines, and that can work. It's just a little bit more work, so I decided to go with something simple for this video. So I'm going to create a sketch now, and that's how we start all of our designs. Is we start with a sketch that we then turn into a 3D object. So I'm going to click on create sketch, and I'm going to click on that square there just to say that I'm working on this plane. It doesn't really matter as much when we're looking top down, but if I go into home view, so that isometric view, there's 3 planes that I can sketch on. So I'm just going to click on that bottom one to tell Fusion that that's the plane I want to work on. So now we're going to create a line, and I'm going to create a line that goes all the way around the outside of my image. Okay, so if I click on line there, and as I said, if you had a curved image, and I will show you this, if you have a curved image, you can use this fit point spline tool to kind of go over the curved lines that are in your image or your logo that you're trying to create. Okay, and that can be a really useful tool. I've just clicked escape to get rid of that because I don't actually want a fit point spline. I'm just using a nice straight line, which makes, as I said a couple of times, just makes it a lot easier. So if I click on that line tool, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and you can kind of zoom in and out as you do this to get as close to the image as possible. So what I'm going to do, I accidentally did the wrong thing there. I want to drag that out. And I'm going to create a line again. Now, it's really important when you create lines that you join one line to the next line. Okay, if you have a break between those two, between any 2 lines, the start and end points of any 2 lines, then you're going to have a lot of trouble because it's not going to know that you've this is really annoying. I'm going to have to click on my pan tool. It won't know that you are trying to complete a shape. So it's really important to make sure that all your lines meet and end at the same point, like I'm doing here. Like I said, straight lines much easier. And then I can make my way around my shape, and I want to start and finish at the same point. Okay, now that's not perfect, but you'll get the idea. When you are making your own, you probably go into a little bit more detail. But once you've completed your shape, if you finish sketch, okay, and let's go back to the home view using the orientation cube. So now I'm looking at my shape, and I can see as I hover over it, I can see that I've created a complete shape. If I hadn't created a complete shape, that wouldn't kind of go into that sort of black outline. It would just be a bunch of lines that I can't do anything with. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this bit that I've created so far. So that just means I'm going to give it some height or some depth. So I'm going to click on that, and automatically it's recognized that I want to extrude this shape because there's only one shape to extrude. And I'm going to make this 10 mil thick, which is 1 centimeter. Okay. So now if I click OK, so now I've sort of got like the first layer of what I'm trying to create. Okay. Now at the moment, it's got no detail. I can't actually see that OKC anywhere in that image. Remembering that 2-dimensional shapes don't show up when we 3D print. We have to give them depth or intrude or extrude. Otherwise, it doesn't show any definition at all. It's not like a regular printer that prints in different colors. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my top view and I'm going to create another line. Okay, but what I'm going to do is create lines on the sort of the line that I'm going over with my cursor right now. So I'll show you what I mean by that is if I go to create sketch, I've got to click on the face of what I've created so far. Click there. Okay, good. And then we go to line. And then I'm going to go around again. Okay. Now just be careful when you get to the edges. You might need to create a separate line when you get to the edges. And I'll show you what I mean by that. And then I'm just going to pause the video. You don't need to watch me go around and click. So I go there. Now at the moment, it's not continuing my line yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that point again. And then I'm going to create the line that goes all the way to there. Okay, and then it doesn't continue the line again for me. So I'm going to click on there again. And I'm going to make sure then I can continue my line and go all the way around. So I'm just going to pause the video for now, and I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back in a moment. Okay, so now you can see I've gone all the way around there. Hopefully I think it will recognize it as a shape. If I go to finish sketch, okay, and I go back to that home view, which is like an isometric view, you can see if I hover over there, I have completed the shape. You'll know if you haven't because it'll just be lines. And then if you try to extrude anything, so like what I'm doing right now, now I'm just going to actually push this down instead of bringing it up. I'm going to go down, and I can do that by selecting a measurement that's negative. Okay, so if I go -2, for example, that's 2 millimeters down that I'm pushing it. So I'm going to click OK. Now you might decide that you want to pull that out, and that's fine. Okay, but you need to do one or the other. You need to push it in or pull it out. Otherwise, you can't see the image at all or what we're trying to create. So now I'm going to go back to my top-down view, and for some reason it spun it around like that, which I don't like. So I'm going to click on top view again, and it's annoying me. Top. That's annoying. I'm just going to spin that around. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around that next edge there, like where I'm showing you my cursor. I'm going to do the same thing that I've just done on it. Again, I need to be careful on the edges. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to show you the next step. So I'm just going to do exactly what I've done. I'm going to pause now, and I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so you can see now I've created that extra line, okay, paying really close attention to the edges and making sure you got a line there. And I know if I finish sketch and I go back to that isometric view, I can see there that I do have a shape in there. Okay, now if that hasn't lit up like that, you've done something wrong. So maybe just Control Z and then have another go at recreating that line and make sure that all your lines join up together to create a shape in the end, a completed shape. So now I go back to the extrude function and I click on that face there, and I'm going to bring that up +2. So then I can start to see I can start to see the detail in that image by pushing in parts and pulling out others. So I've sort of just got one last step here. I've got to do this shape here, this shape here, and that shape there, and I've got to extrude those. Now, oh sorry, am I going to extrude or intrude? I'm going to intrude, so I'm going to push in. All right, so the way that we do that, we'll just do one of these shapes at a time. Okay, so the same sort of process as before. I'm just going to do one at a time. So I'm going to start off by creating sketch. I'm going to click on this face, and I'm just going to start off by outlining this shape here. I'll just press pause. You don't need to watch me do that. Okay, so I've done that. If I go to finish sketch now, I'm going back to my home view, and I'm going to push that down. Go to extrude. I'm going to push that down 2 mil, -2, and then we have that part. Now the next part I need to chop out or push in is that triangular part. So I'm going to click on create sketch again. I'm going to click on that face. I'm going to now outline that triangle. I'm going to push that in, and I'm going to do after doing the triangle, I'm going to do that bit, and I'm going to push that in. So you don't need to watch me do that. It's just the same process that I've done before. I'll come back in a moment. Okay, so I've done that now, and so you can see my object here. Now, importantly, when we 3D print, we can't like use multiple colors. So the colors of that image that are below, they're not going to show in any way on the actual print. So there's a couple of options. You can either print in one color that you really like, okay, or you can print in white, and then you can color it in with Posca pens or some other type of material to make it to get the colors that you're after. Now, the last step of what we need to do when we create something on Fusion and we want to 3D print it is we need to export it, and we need to export it as an STL file. But I've just remembered that we are making a pencil top, and I've forgotten one item, which is the hole. Okay, so if I need to decide where I want the hole, which surface I want it to be on, and I'm deciding that I want it to be on this surface here. So I'm just going to click on hole, and I'm going to click on that face, and there it creates the hole for me. Now I'm just going to sort of move that around a little bit, and then I'm going to put in the dimensions of my hole. So I do want it to be 7.2 millimeters. I want it to go in 10 mil, which is 1 centimeter. Okay, so I'm just going to now move that around so it gets to a point where it's not going to intrude on my object. So that's probably a good spot there. Click OK, and there you have the hole to put your pen or your pencil, completing the pencil topper. So now we need to 3D print this. So what we need to do is we go to File, we go to Export. Don't save it. You can save it, but that's not going to help you 3D print it. That will just save it as a Fusion file that you can work on later. So it's probably a good idea to do that, but that's not how we 3D print. And 3D print would be the likely scenario there, but it's actually not that option. It is Export. And once we go to Export, we go, okay, OKC logo, and then type in there what color you want it, so that when you save it for me and you send it to me, I know what color to print it in. And then you can see here the file type by default is an Autodesk Fusion file. We need to change that file type to STL, okay? An STL file, all right? Then choose your location on your computer where you want to save it. Okay, so choose your Year 9 STEM or DDC, whatever subject you're doing, choose that, and then go and click Save. Now, this doesn't save the file yet. It just saves the location of the file. The last thing you need to do is you need to export it. Once it's exported, then go to an email, create a new email, attach the file. Don't embed it or don't try and share the file. Attach it to the email, and then send that to me, and I'll be able to 3D print that for you. Okay, so STL file, attach as a attachment, not as an embedded file or anything like that. Send that off, and then we can 3D print that. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.